And hello and welcome to Flamingo Fight Talk. I'm your host, Derek Schramm, and with me today is nobody. As many of us are experiencing, well, not me, being here in frigid Orlando, Florida. Can you believe it? It is like 30 degrees outside. But for the rest of the country, including Kelby, all y'all are pretty much snowed in. And I'm sure it's not going to be that fun of a time, but I do want to kind of just give the shout out really quick. For those that don't know, Kelby, he's out there right now, brining the roads and operating some snow plows and making sure the people of Tennessee can get to and where they're going. And, just want to shout out all the guys, not just my buddy, but all his coworkers and all the, workers of every single state right now that are dealing with these conditions. And, they go unappreciated and they really do help keep us all safe. So shout out to them while we all just freeze together. But we're not here to talk about the weather. We are here to talk about UFC 324 Gaethje versus Pimblett. And yeah, it's Tuesday. Actually, no, it's Wednesday morning. It's a little late. Obviously, I mentioned Kelby's been working. He's been working nights, grinding the roads, like I said. So he hasn't been able to step in and record. We will be doing our preview to UFC 325 Volkanovski versus Lopez 2 tomorrow. And myself, as you can probably hear, a little bit sick. So took a couple days, watched the fights. That was fun. Got to watch the fight with the boys. But here we are now, getting in the breakdown of the fight night. All around, it was a good night of fights. First fight on Paramount Plus, and damn, they had a lot of things kind of going wrong in the beginning there. Part of this, I wanted to give a good critique of the UFC's first fight on Paramount, but I don't want to be overly negative because end of the day, it was a great fight, and no, it was a really good fight. Um, And I think that was intentional. They put hella action fights all over this card, from the main event to honestly the fights that got canceled on the prelim. Michael Johnson versus Alexander Hernandez, that would have been great. I think there was four first round finishes. It was a great fight night. It was fun. It was sloppy, uh, but it was a good fight night. Great action fights. I think it's definitely kind of the first impression, at least half know what they want to make. But like, let's really quick. I wasn't going to do this, but let's talk about everything wrong with UFC 324 just really quick. I'm only going to have this a minute or so. I was going to make a whole video, but let's be quick. Of the fight card, first and foremost, the absolute worst thing that happened to this card was the fallout of Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison, which arguably should have been the main event, the greatest fight in women's MMA to make right now. And, hey, might be the greatest fight ever. We need to see it. We have to see this fight right then and there. Then you have what else? You have Justin Gaethje complaining about pay at the press conference to the fight. I'm sure, and looks like that all got resolved. It looks like someone talked to Gaethje. He got his bonus, and we did get the announcements of the 25K finish bonuses as well as the increase in the performance bonuses. But fighter pay is still a live issue. I do want to say just really quick, I love the finish bonuses. I wish they'd been around for longer. Let's make them 50K. Give it a year, and then let's try to get something. Let's not, you know, 25K is great for an up and coming fighter. 25K is great for anyone, but I think someone else said it. When you're Justin Gaethje is going to go for the knockout because he's Justin Gaethje, but you're not going to get, you know, you're not going to get someone like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in the fourth round of a fight really try to like step into gear to try to get the finish if he's already won the first three rounds. He's going to ride that to a point decision because to him, $25,000 is not worth his place at the top of the division. This is when he was, but that's just kind of my point. Great for the young guys. It does incentivize finishes. great thing. That's definitely a positive you have to give to the Paramount era. Like, no way around it. Back to our things wrong with UFC. There was a gambling scandal. There was a weight cutting scandal. Cameron Smotherman passes out on the stage. Poor Michael Bisping gets the clip. I don't care about these fighters if they can't make weight. Cameron Smotherman blacks out. You know, thankfully, seems like he's okay. He's coming out and saying he didn't cut too much weight, but they did the right thing, canceling the fight. And same with Alexander Hernandez and Michael Johnson. And I'll go out, speak out of make what's the word? Talk out of my blank, but I'm trying not to curse on this show. Fabricate, that's a lie, not the right word either. I'll talk about something I don't really know. Alexander Hernandez comes out before the fight. At least I see the rumors of this on Twitter saying he's going to fight through an injury. The betting lines, and they've been moving since all week towards away from Hernandez, towards Michael Johnson. And eventually, Dana White gets the call from his gaming advisors or whatever board it is. I'm not sure. And they pulled the fight. They pulled the fight because it's suspicious and they didn't want a repeat of last year's nonsense with illegal gambling. But we do got to say something really quick. Gambling has been in combat sports, I think, forever. I think it's kind of was the whole point of why two people got in a ring and started hitting each other was, people had to put some money on it. And it's always going to be that way. With the increase of sports gambling, and we make picks on this show, and we're going to keep making picks because I don't think there's really anything too wrong with it. But obviously, people have seen, if you pay attention to sports news, the increase of sports gambling has caused a little bit of a stir with some fixing of games and fights and all that stuff. And frankly, yeah, I know it was on the prelims, but Michael Johnson and Alex Hernandez are the two highest profile MMA fighters to be involved in a fight fixing scandal. It's not a fight fixing scandal, I don't want to say that, but have been flagged in one of these types of things. Michael Johnson is a former, I believe, top five, but he was definitely a top 10 ranked contender. Alex Hernandez, definitely not, but he is a name in this division who's been around for a while. The other guys have kind of been very, like, let's be honest, we hardly know their names. We knew these guys' names. Now, like I said, if I'm going to say my thing and I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt, it looks like Alexander Hernandez was trying to prove how tough he was, saying he'd fight injured. And then a lot of people, rather smartly with that information, put their money on Michael Johnson. And technically, if that wasn't made public, that would be considered insider trading. That's how these things work. You can kind of go around like, oh, if I can get an advantage by getting some extra information on a fight, it would help my gambling that other people wouldn't know. I'm like, yeah, that's the definition of insider trading. So it's one of those things that happened in this fight, and it needs to get fixed. UFC did the correct thing. They pulled the fight, and you know it went on. Outside of that, main event was sloppy. It did not need to be a title fight. You had Umar and Davison Figueiredo on the prelims. You had ranked fighters on the early prelims. Like there's other things, but we're already almost 10 minutes in. I want to keep it moving because I don't want to be negative. This was a good fight, but there were some issues. I think Paramount did good overall. I do gotta say, right off the top, everyone's complaining about the ads. And I did talk to my two buddies I watched the fight with because I told them straight up, like, hey, this is the first fight night me and my guys have had in quite a while. It's been a minute since I sat down and watched a whole UFC card with my friends, so I barely noticed the commercials. We got commercials all the time, and I've been watching a lot of football because my Patriots are going to the Super Bowl. And yeah, it's littered with ad every 5 seconds. There's a commercial break. So one of those things where it's like, it's only $8.99. I will say, if you paid the $13.99, especially if you thought you weren't going to get any ads, even though I'm pretty sure it does say it excludes live sports on that ad free, I'd be a little miffed by that, but overall, not that big of a deal. Sorry about that. Blinking. Just edit this out. Anyways, I did talk to my two friends with it, and they both did mention that, like, yeah, having some of the walkouts cut short did suck. Having some of the they, I mean, we're all kind of agreement that, like, yeah, missing the corner sucks. However, I don't. To be honest, I really don't need to hear the corner every single time because most of the time there's not a lot there, to be honest. But there are certain moments in fights. Famously, it's the Derek Lewis call out to go knock out Alexander Volkov. Famously, you got Leon Edwards corner talk, and then he goes knocks out Usman. There's conversely, yeah, the Jessica I no Raquel Pennington, her pleading with her corner not to send her back out there against Amanda Nunez, and that's absolutely, yeah, like, we missed great things from the corner. So, and I know they did say they're playing with a few things and might come back and might not. We gotta give it time for them to work out their broadcast. It's just how it needs to be. But enough of that. Let's talk about my bet picks, not the fights. Let's just talk about that really quick. I went 7 for 11. Not too bad. We did have those cancellations of Smotherman and Hernandez Johnson. So I did pick Ricky Turchos and Mike Alexander Hernandez to win those fights, but they did not happen. Otherwise, I went 7 for 11 on the card. The winners on the card were Justin Gaethje by decision, Sean O'Malley by decision, Waldo Cortez Acosta by second round knockout, Natalia Silva by decision, Arnold, sorry, John Silva by decision, Umar Nurmagomedov by decision, Ateba Gautier by decision, Nikita Krylov with the KO with like 1 second left. You have Alex Perez with the KO, Josh Hokick with a KO, and Ty Miller with a knockout. So a lot of good finishes on this fight. A lot of, again, it was fun, exciting fights. Was wrong on my main card pick. I did pick Paddy Pimblett to win this fight. I thought he was going to catch Gaethje dipping that head with the knee. He definitely tried it. Gaethje was dipping that head all thing, but I mean, we'll get to the fight in a minute, but basically, if you ask me, Paddy doesn't have enough power to hurt Justin Gaethje, and he doesn't have the ability to control the fight either. So Justin Gaethje got to do what Justin Gaethje does, but what a chin on Paddy. Did not expect that. I thought if Paddy couldn't take Justin's back, his head was going to get sent to orbit. I was wrong on that as well. But I was wrong on a couple things, but what I did hit was my parlay. Umar by decision, Silva, Natalia by decision, and Cortez by knockout. I called it here. I believe that was plus 350. If anyone took that advice, you're welcome for the money. Send it over my way. You don't have to, but it is appreciated. Or you can like and subscribe. Now let's get into the fights. Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. Like I already kind of mentioned, moral of the story. Yeah, Paddy needs to. I'm just gonna get right into it. Good fight, sloppy fight. Definitely not interim title. And now you have the position where Justin Gaethje is the interim champion and arguably the fifth best fighter in the division. He has Max Holloway, he has Charles Oliveira, he has Arman Sarukian, and he has Ilya all above him. I love Gaethje, no disrespect. Two of the guys have wins on him. They have stoppages over him, because that's the only way Gaethje ever loses. Ilya smoked the two guys that Gaethje beat, and Armin's just being punished, kept away from everybody. So yeah, and then you look at Paddy, and we all said Paddy had a favorable route up to the top, and I got in on the hype. I picked him to win, and I think what happened is Paddy impressed us with his toughness, and it was a good fight, but we gotta keep in mind, man, like, he's out here throwing middle school punches in a title fight, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, he needs to work his boxing, and more importantly than his striking, because his striking is effective. He employs a game where he just crashes into his opponent, gets him to kind of scramble, gets him to trip, gets the trip in the scramble, and then he's good at back taking and mat wrestling, where his choking is, his A game. And but like that's the thing, like he's fighting elite. He got to the elite level with his fight with Justin Gaethje, and you can't be an elite level fighter with a strategy of crashing into people and hoping you can choke them. This isn't like that's early Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern might have better striking than Paddy Pimblett, but you know, like he has effective striking because he did land and hurt Gaethje, but I guess I mean, what did he weigh in the fight? Like 170, probably. Yeah, a jumping 175-pound punch is going to hurt if it lands, and Justin Gaethje doesn't use head movement unless he's dipping it to the right. Yeah, like again, one of those things. Great fight, but kind of like and I know other people say that if you're Ilya, if you're Armin, watching that fight, you're just looking at him like I can beat both these guys. It was a sloppy fight. They put on a great fun show for the Paramount debut, so you got to give them credit. But yeah, that was rough. Um, yeah, Gaethje absolutely won 4-1. I don't. He just beat Gaethje. He just beat Patty up. Like he beat him up. It's really all there is to say about it. So let's get into the next fights we'd like to see from these guys. I'm not going to do this for every single fighter, but I am going to do this for all ranked fighters on cards. Now, obviously, we had quite a few ranked fighters on this card, so I do have quite a few next fights. I like playing a little bit of matchmaker. Um, Justin Gaethje, obviously, he has the interim belt, so he should be going against Ilya Topuria. Um, we also, I think, all realize that is a ridiculous fight to make because Arman Sarukian is the number one contender. Likewise, with Taporia being out, maybe they should be able to put Gaethje against Armin to defend the interim belt. I would like that. Not sure how much Gaethje likes that, but I do think, really quick, Gaethje versus Armin is the better fight than Gaethje versus Ilya. I think Armin Gaethje would be a more fun fight, and frankly, I think Ilya just knocks out Justin Gaethje. I think that's what's going to happen there. The other fights you could do for Justin Gaethje is like, hey, you got the interim belt. Poirier's out there saying he'd come back for a trilogy with Gaethje. You know, I know they're looking for fights for Connor. Gaethje versus Connor is the legend fight. It's the legendary fight. And frankly, at this point, are we surprised if Gaethje just mauls Conor McGregor? I think we all kind of want to watch that a little deep down. And then there's also Gaethje versus the. Hey, he can go back and try to get the BMF again. Rematch Holloway, rematch, Oliveira. I'll watch. Who's not going to watch that fight? You know what I mean? It sells itself. As for Patty, obviously he has the beef with Dan Hooker, who fights Benoit Saint Denis this weekend. We'll talk more about that fight next time. Um, after watching what Justin Gaethje did to Paddy Pimblett, I think Dan Hooker's going to do worse to him. Not because Dan Hooker's a better striker than Justin Gaethje, kind of the opposite, but I think Dan Hooker's pissed off, and if he can get past BSD, and that's an if, but if he gets past him, I think they're going to go for that Hooker Patty fight, and I think he needs to learn how to shoot a takedown before that fight. And really quick, back to the Patty side. Besides his middle school girl punches, the thing he needs to work down is his takedowns. He has an A game of scrambling back taking. He has a crashing stand-up game, and then he has trips and throws from the clinch and good scrambling. Obviously, more disciplining the striking is going to be a way to fix that. But if he can employ takedowns, then he can control that's the thing people always talk about, like, oh, takedown, like, oh, takedowns are boring. You need takedowns. Like, yes, you need takedowns because you need to control where the fight takes place. And wrestling is the only martial art that, is primarily about controlling where the fight takes place. Obviously, there's so much more into it, but it's the best range control art. And it's just, I know some people don't like to say wrestling's an art. It is. Whatever. Um, yeah, I think Dan Hooker versus Patty Pimlet's kind of the fight to make, especially if the beef, you're going to headline that. That'll be a fun fight. For if whatever reason, if Dan Hooker loses, I guess you can still make that fight. I don't have really a lot of appetite if BSD wins or lose. If BSD loses, I want Dan Hooker versus Patty Pimlet. If BSD wins, I don't want to see BSD versus Patty Pimlet. That's just me. If you want to give Patty an easier fight, and no disrespect to the man, but putting him versus Money Moicano, that would be a really fun fight. The talk would be great. I mean, Moicano's on a two-fight losing streak. Yeah, I think that would be kind of, you know, and it's a name like because I think now that Patty got skyrocketed to the top. He beat the aging guys until he couldn't. It's time that he goes back down, and he needs to get some actual names. He needs to beat some actual guys. So yeah, Hooker. Honestly, BSD, but I think BSD is now above Patty and Moicano. Those are three guys right there where it's like, okay, you need to start, get some top 10 wins. That's what he needs to do. Technically, like, yeah, he beat Chandler. Patty doesn't have any real top 10 wins. Moving on to our co-main, Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. Weird fight, right? Kind of a weird fight. Initially, I picked Song Yadong to win. Kind of going back and looking at it, I think it's close. It's not a robbery. I kind of can see. I see it. I see it for Sean the second time. I can still make my argument for Song. I think Song just got in his face and kind of fought a better fight until he didn't. Sean was on a two-fight losing streak. It looks like Sean was in his head. It looks like, yeah, no, it looks like Sean O'Malley didn't want to go to three straight losses. So he fought a slow and complacent fight, and Song Yadong took it to him the first round. Sean was slow, and yeah, like that's the thing. Sean O'Malley lands great hits, and he doesn't get hit too hard. And Song bleeds. He bleeds in his fights, and I think the blood really does help. I don't know if "help" is the right word. Impact judges' scorecards. I think when they are bleeding like that, it is just oh, they can't be winning. They're bleeding. I think it is as simple as that. Yeah, no, I mean Sean O'Malley, he got the win. Good for him. It wasn't the most exciting fight. I hit round three though. That was Sean O'Malley just landing, and yeah, here he is, kind of in. I guess that's similar to Gaethje, where you kind of have like all these top bantamweights. You have Peter Yan, the champion. You have Marab, the former champion, arguably the rightful number one contender. You have Umar, and you have Sean O'Malley. And is Sean the worst of the three? Maybe, or worst of the four of them? Maybe. But I think he might be getting the next title fight because he has that win over Marab. I think putting him against Umar would be wildly irresponsible. I mean, if Sean wants to take the toughest fight in the division and prove himself, he should fight Umar. If he wants to be smart, go for the champion of Peter Yan. I don't think anyone doesn't want a Piotr Yan Sean O'Malley rematch. That is a fun fight. Personally, though, I want the Piotr Yan rematch with Merab Dvalishvili. Merab's my bantamweight goat. I love the guy, so I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Merab. Um, I was a fan of Merab before he stole Sean's jacket, but ever since he stole Sean O'Malley's jacket in the Sterling fight, that is he might be my favorite fighter. It's amazing. I love it. I liked all this Henry Cejudo cringe stuff too. So, what does that say about me? Yeah, Song needs a weapon, man. Like I think who was it? I can't remember who said it, so I don't want to just spitball. But one of the big MMA podcasts, one of the fighter ones, they said it, and like, damn, like Song Yadong needs a weapon because he's so good, he's so tough, he's so athletic, but he like besides his power, he really doesn't have an A game. And I think that's where he's at right now. And, he's able to kind of beat a lot of guys, but he's not going to beat the elite of bantamweight without an A game. It's just not going to happen. Sorry, and his A game seems to be physical and land the big punch. And, like, that's not a game. Like, that's Francis Ngannou's game, and Song doesn't carry that type of power. Like, it's a different thing. So if we're doing Marab versus Piotr Yan, Sean O'Malley needs a fight. Again, I'm not crazy on the Umar fight. If you want to do it, go ahead and do it. I think the best fight you can make in bantamweight overall might be Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen. Striker's delight. Haven't been fresh matchup. Damn, like, and I know Corey was there and he was calling it out for the White House. I mean, I I mean, like, right? Like Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen on the White House. That'd be great. As for Song Yadong, I think he should fight Figgy, actually. I think Figgy looked okay against Umar. He is an older former champ from a lesser division, but he still carries incredible power. He's still good. You can't take Umar struggles to take him down, and like, yeah, great fight. We'll get to him later, but I think Song Yadong versus Figueiredo. That is kind of where I think. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to pull up the rankings here. I just want to look at them really quick. Song Yadong 5, Davidson Figueredo 7. So I think they were still right next to each other. I'd put them against like, I think that's kind of I think that's the way to go with that. Let's get into the heavyweights. This fight was, I called it. I told you when you both got to Zook, the faster hands are going to win. Waldo Acosta, yeah, Cortez Acosta. I keep wanting to say it the other way. I don't know why. Oh, I know why. I'm not gonna say it. Waldo. So Acosta, fast hands, looked good. Uh, Derek Lewis looked like a 40-year-old, which he is. He looks old. He's fought a hell of a lot. He doesn't look like he wants to get in there, brawl, and try to win the fight. He looks like he wants to land the big punch or give up. And I'm not going to ever say Derek Lewis is a quitter, but I think that's kind of what happened. Yeah, I mean, like, that fight shouldn't have been on the main card, man. Like, put Umar Figgy on that. You know what I mean? That shouldn't have been on the main card. Acosta called out Blades. That is probably one of his tougher fights. I mean, you look at the division now. The people above Cortez, he's a top five fighter. You are looking at Curtis Blades, Sergey Pavlovich, Alexander Volkov, Cyril Gahn, and let's be honest, I'm all those guys are dangerous to him. Pavlovich has a win over him, and yeah, he's a big guy, good footwork, good boxing, but Volkov and Gahn are better boxing. Pavlovich probably a better striker. Curtis Blades is the only guy above him that's not a better striker, even though he does also carry big power. But I think with him, it's more of a wrestling game. And to this point, Cortez shown decent wrestling. So yeah, let's do a good call out. Get your win streak up, get in line for a title fight, picking as much winnable fights as possible with as big a name as possible. He's doing the game. Um, is he going to get to a title with it? Heavyweight's weak. Um, and I like the guy, but yeah, what Cortez he needs a B game. He needs more danger threats. His boxing's good. If he can honestly, if he can get some more conditioning in and just lay on some output instead of as much shuffling around, if he can start operating at a higher pace, I think that's where he could really come into a danger. Of course, I think that's probably the true for most heavyweights. So you feel like that way when you do get the more active heavyweights. I feel like any heavyweight that has good movement, you're like, if you can just push the pace, you're going to kill these guys, which is true, but we are asking big guys to push the pace. So, they don't want to end up tired either. As for Blades, I gotta be honest. Oh, sorry, not Blades. Lewis. I gotta be honest. I'm not terribly excited for many future fights with him. I'm probably always going to watch the Derek Lewis fight because a Derek Lewis fight always has the potential to be fun, deliver a big knockout, and have a very funny post fight, in cage interview. But gotta say, I need Derek. I think I'm getting point to where I think I'd like to wish Derek Lewis a happy retirement. Obviously, he's an older guy, but heavyweights can go old. I just, hey, he's the knockout king. He's going to be exciting. They are always going to give him fights, but can't be good for him at this point. If you are going to look for another fight, I think Ante Dalia, PFL guy, good guy. I mean, he's been in the UFC too. Like, it's not just a PFL guy, but he's I think at 14 in the rankings. Derek Lewis is down there now. So if you're going to do a fight, try to build other guys that can kind of do something off of him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fully in like using Derek Lewis as a step stool for other heavyweights now, which sucks, but because I like Derek Lewis, but it needs to happen. Let's get down to the women fight. Natalia Silva decisions Rose, and I know some people were saying Rose won. I didn't think so. I think Rose kind of sucked in the fight. I mean, she didn't suck, but like Silva, slow pace fights. Both of them need to work on output. Josh Thompson absolutely said this. He did. I want to give him as fair of a quote as possible off the top of my head. What he did say is he didn't say only women's fight do this, but it's particularly prevalent in women's fight, and that he hates when fighters are out of range and they throw a punch anyways. And it's not a feint. He made clear he's like, it's not like I'm giving you a look to get a reaction to try to land something else. It's like, no, I'm just throwing it to throw so it looks like I'm active. It's like, and you know what? I think I agree with him. It's like, Jesus Christ, step forward and punch each other in the face. And like, you know, they both got a lot riding on it. I said Rose had to make it a tough, grimy fight. I think when she was doing that, she was kind of winning. But Natalia Silva kind of just kicked her and got the win. I don't like I said, I don't think Rose won that fight. I think it was close, but I think Silva won, right? And as for next fights, I mean, so it's pretty clear. It's going to be Shevchenko. She solidified herself as number one contender. But I really don't think she has much for. I'm just pulling up Silva's record here really quick. I don't think she really has much of a chance at beating Shevchenko, but up to 8-0, has three former champs in a row, all decisions, and it's like, yeah, I mean, she's good, but is she going to beat Shevchenko? I haven't seen it. I don't know. I don't know how you beat Shevchenko except if you're Amanda Nunes, apparently. Well, I mean, I know Grasso beat Shevchenko, but frankly, I think looking at that now, we can all agree she caught her on a bad night, and it was Grasso's best night. As for Rose, like, she's in the middle of the pack now. Like, everyone that's beating her is above her. She's still above the two people she beat in the division. If she's like, I think she needs to ask if she wants to keep doing this. If she does, there's fun fights for her to make. Obviously, she was booked originally to fight Grasso. We can still do the Grasso fight. That's fun. But I think what women's MMA needs is new stars, new contenders. And I think, hey, two of the most exciting new fighters in the women's game is Erin Blanchfield, who Rose already beat. I think the other one, I mean, she's not necessarily new, but like kind of resurgent right now is Macy Barber, super fun fighter. And there's also Jasmine Jastovicius, and I think they're just all in a row, aren't they? Yeah, you have. I mean, yeah, from going 1 through 7, Manon Farrow, who Rose lost to, Aaron Blanchfield, who Rose lost to. 4 is Grasso, 5 is Barber, 6 is Jasdovicius, and 7 is Rose. So, like, yeah, if she wants to fight up still, I mean, she can go down, I guess, fight Karine Silva or Casey O'Neill, Wang Hong, but like, you know, I don't know if Rose wants to do that. Yeah, I'd be going for Jasmine Jasdovicius, Macy Barber, Alexa Grasso. Still respectable names in this division for former champion, for the greatest flyweight. But yeah, we need a. Rose needs to Rose needs to get pissed off and want to knock someone out. That's what Rose needs. She needs to bring the thug back. Like, come on. Sorry, I hate on Rose. I hate on Rose because Rose does boring fights, and I know she has more in her. And it's like it's frustrating. But moving on to the opener of the prelims, Jalen Silva put on a great fight against Arnold Allen and got the win. And I gotta say, I am so upset with Arnold Allen losing again. I love that guy. Great first round. I think one of the best defensive fighters at featherweight. But this is an offensive game. And yeah, you're going to lose the fight when John Silva is riding you as a surfboard in the third round. And I know Arnold Allen hated that, but damn, that sucked. Not I was rooting for Allen. Yeah, but Silva won. Respect on Silva. Great fight. Got struggled the first round. He was a little bit slow against a very defensive fighter. I kind of said I think the way that Arnold Allen wins that fight is was he was going to control the center of the striking, and John Silva he was allowed to move and he hit his flow state, and that's the thing. You can't let that guy get into a flow. So yeah, and John Silva's kind of like another one of those guys. So he went and got his, went up, fought Diego Lopez and lost. And now he's kind of in that spot where does he go from here? And he's sitting there at number 6. Above him is Aljamain Sterling. 4 is Lerone Murphy. 3 is Yair Rodriguez. 2 Diego Lopez, and 1 is Voilev. All super tough fights. But below him, Arnold Allen, Yusuf Zalal, Steve Garcia, Brian Ortega. Tough. Those are all the people he just jumped over. Um, if I'm John Silva, I am not fighting backwards. I am working towards that belt I was sobbing for. Um, Ivoyev and Murphy are paired up. Lopez is fighting for the title again. That leaves Sterling and Yair, and both you can do either one of those. But if I'm UFC, why on earth am I not putting Yair Rodriguez and John Silva together? What a fight! And yeah, like that's the thing. Like featherweight. You know what's sad, and I'm not blaming Volk for this. Lightweight was the killer division forever, and it's still the killer. You get, it's the joke where you have Poirier and Gaethje out here like, oh, another one for the legends, yada yada, and we all recognize bantamweight to be super hot as it is. Like number 10 bantamweight's David Martinez. Like what I mean? It's a great division. And featherweight was right there too for the longest time. And I feel like in the Volkanovski era, it fell out. In the Volkanovski era, and like I don't mean that. Just he was so dominant over everyone, but it wasn't just him being so dominant. It was Max Holloway still being dominant, and it was kind of like you had two champions in Max and Volk, where it's like, bro, people couldn't even get to a title fight because they couldn't get past Max Holloway. And then you had until you had Ilya Taporia with like the great equalizer just going through and starching people. And so yeah, featherweight kind of thing, but like all the guy, like, and not gonna lie, Ivoyev, yeah, and Lerone Murphy and Arnold Allen for that matter too. They all have kind of they're not action fight friendly fighters, but they're great fighters, and I respect their place in the division. Honestly, Volkanovski, if you want to talk about defense, his defense is better than his. 1 second. Sorry about that. That was a garbage truck, and I thought it was a fire alarm. Where was I? Featherweights. Yeah, but like you got those guys above him. If I'm John Silva, I'm putting them against Yair Rodriguez. I'm trying to put them in Mexico and let those guys just go to war. Like that would be fun as hell. As for Arnold Allen, like the guy's great. But you want to know what I think they should do with him? I think he needs a easy fight, and I hate to say that. And this could be disrespectful. Put him against Brian Ortega. It's a name. It's a good name to kind of get hype from. And as for the biggest thing that he needs to do is Arnold Allen needs to stay healthy. He needs to get to fighting twice a year. How old is he? He's 20-4 in the UFC, or not in the UFC, but he's 20-4. He's a good fighter. Like, why does you? Okay, this is why I like Topology, because if I go on Topology, I can just type the guy in, and it gives me all the info I want on the guy. And if I go ahead and go to the UFC website, I'm gonna, oh, he has 3.04 significant strikes absorbed. I'm like, I want his age. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, just give me his regular. It's just such a. He's 32. You're 32 years old. You're supposed to be in the prime of your career. You're on a three-fight losing streak now. In the middle of the division, when you were, he was one of those guys that couldn't get past through Max Holloway. No disrespecting the guys he's lost to, but John Silva is a step down. And yeah, if you want to get back in there, defend low, beat Brian Ortega, a guy who, has, a fun, he's going to be there. It gives Arnold Allen the opportunity to be in an action fight. And I think that's what he needs. I think that's what he needs. We're finally on the main card. Let's get into the prelims. Main event, the prelim, Umar Nurmagomedov just out, outclasses Davison Figueiredo. Davison is 38. Umar is the bigger guy, but yeah, we all knew Umar was going to win. He was a favorite for a reason, but damn, is Figgy tough? Like, Figgy made it a fight, and he kind of made it a boring fight because it's like in the middle of the fight there, he kind of realizes like, yeah, I can't out technical Umar, so I'm just going to try to knock his block off. And that kind of just like got Umar to where it's like, well, I can't really get in there because he's going to try to knock my block off. So now I just got to play this defensive game. And it's like it kind of petered down in the fight. But yeah, Umar gets the win. Um, he's the best guy in the division, I think. He definitely could be. I don't think he gets to fight with Piotr Jan off that fight. I think he's, kind of. I think he needed a finish to kind of keep his name in the running of that. Like I said, those four. It's three. It's Sean O'Malley, Marab, and Umar. Jan's the champ, but I very much think Piotr Jan is of their ilk. I don't think there's much separation between the four. And again, I wouldn't actually say I think Sean's at the bottom of that four, but right now, hey, Marab needs to look out. Sean O'Malley might get the title shot from him. I don't think Umar's close. So if he's not getting a title fight in his next fight, what do you need to do? You need to go and beat the other tough guys of the division. And frankly, Umar, you didn't get to have your opportunity until Corey Sandhagen dropped down the ladder and you beat Corey. Then you go and, he doesn't have, it's one of those things I mentioned, he doesn't have a lot of fights in that middle. He went from nobodies right to the top because he's that good. And we looked at like, oh, maybe only the best guy can beat him. But I think it's, hey, we need to give him guys now. And yeah, Sean O'Malley could do that. Again, I've already said I don't like the Sean O'Malley Umar fight. I think that's kind of cashing one of them out. Meaning Sean. Um, I put him against Eamon Zahabi. The guy's hot right now. He's, I think it's time to like, we have those guys. They're great guys. A bunch of former champs now at the top. I know Umar didn't get that championship. I think it's time that we start bringing Eamon Zahabi up in there. And I think he can do some fun. Like, let me see, where's he? Six in the rankings? Eamon? Where is he? My face is covering him. Yeah, he's six. So he's right above Davison. Yeah, Umar's number two. Marab's above him. I think Marab should get the title fight. Again, 3 and 4 are Corey. I'm matching them together. Umar already beat Corey. Why would Umar want to fight Song Yadong, who just lost to Sean O'Malley? Eamon Zahabi's number 6. He just beat Davison Figueiredo, number 7. So unless you want to drop him all the way to number 8 against, Marlon Vera, who's above number 9, Mario Bautista, which you want to beat. So it's kind of one of those things like he's, you kind of have the other top guys kind of matched up and, coming off fights. Again, 2, 3, Umar O'Malley, looking at the rankings that way does make sense, but you don't want to do Song versus Umar, right? I mean, I guess you could do Song Yadong versus Umar, but that's a guy coming off a loss. I don't know if you want to do that to Song Yadong. Just keep giving him these tough guys. I think I put him against Figgy. Frankly, I think that'd be a fun fight for the two of them to kind of battle out and decide who wants to be the man outside the top five. I think it's between those two. And yeah, Eamon Zahabi's the other guy there, and I think it's time that he gets his crack into there. Mario Batista got his crack in there with Umar. Marlon Vera had his chances in there. Davidson Figueiredo just had his chance in there. Song Yadong's had his chance in there. Corey's still, number 4. He's holding on. So, but Umar and Corey already fought. So, yeah, you'll just look at it. Umar versus Eamon Zahabi, that's the fight, and that's a fun fight. And I think Umar wins, but I don't. I think I'm kind of done counting out Eamon. I might be rooting for him in that fight. I'm going to watch some more on that. As I said earlier, Figgy, I think he should fight Song Yadong. If he's going to be if he's going to be a contender, I think he should be able to beat Song Yadong since Song doesn't have a elite level A game. He only has close athleticism, close difference, be physical and power, and yeah, I think the only thing that Davidson Figueiredo doesn't have there is the athleticism because he's 38, but he's a former champion, so I think that's a great fight for both of them. Davidson if he's still there, and Song if he can get there. Let me look now. So, what was the next fight down the card? Past events. Gaethje Pimlet. I'm going to be quick with these last couple here as we're getting into the end of it. Ateba Gautier versus Andre Puliev. I'm not going to. Wow. That. Man, was I disappointed he didn't get. I mean, I said this. When Ateba Gautier throws punches, thunder hits. And unfortunately, Andre Puliev dodged all the thunder, but the ref tore his ACL in that fight. I think it was Mark Smith. I think it was just the physicality of Gautier that tore the ref's ACL. But damn, Puliev looking a lot good in there. This is what I mean when all you got is physicality, athleticism, and power, and no game to get close. Though the guy went to decision in a big, muscled up guy like that going 15 minutes, I was surprised. He did not look bad. I think it's now, I think it's time they teach him how to like actually fight now, though. Puliev, damn, he didn't. I don't know what his upside is, but he did lose. But he did kind of impress me in that fight. He did so much better than I thought. So, respect, frankly. But yeah, so that's. I'm not going to pick their next fights, whatever it is. I'm sure it'll be good. Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas. That was kind of a rough fight for me to watch. I didn't care for it too much. I think Modestas pretty much was winning that entire fight until Nikita caught him in the last bit. And yeah, Krylov, no 13 in the rankings. I'm not crazy on Krylov these days. He just kind of like been, he's fought a lot of guys. One guy he hasn't fought yet though, at the bottom of the division with him, even though he's on a 4-fight losing streak. I think it's time. Rakic versus Krylov. There was a time when they were like 5-6, and I was in the first iteration of Flamingo Fight Talk. Actually, I remember one of those early ones. I'm like, no, Nikita Krylov versus Alexander Rakic, and I think that was before Rakic fought Jan Blachowicz when he was like number 6 in the rankings, and Krylov was like number 7. I'm like, we need to do these two guys. That'd be so good. And then it's been rough times, I think, for both of them. But Nikita Krylov a little more up and down. They're both kind of not. I think it'd be a fun fight between the two. I think it's a respectful fight between two veterans at the same time. Modestas, whoever, he just needs to, get back in there. Yeah, Alex Perez versus Charles Johnson. Damn, I got that one wrong. I picked Charles Johnson to win. I mean, I did also pick Modestus Bukauskas in the last one, but yeah, Charles Johnson is who I picked to win. And oh, I actually didn't pick a next fight for him, so I'm going to have to look in a minute here. But damn, Alex Perez, wow, what a knockout! I thought that was great. Um, but it really not much to say with it. I was completely surprised. I thought Charles Johnson was going to have a Charles Johnson fight, and I guess he did. He lost to a guy he shouldn't have, and Alex Perez shows that he is still great in this division with that knockout. As for Perez, I think he should go for the winner of Amir Albazi and Kyoji Horiguchi. They're above him. I think, yeah, I think if Alex Perez wants to make his second title run here, he needs to work his way up. And he did. I would even say, put him against Tatsuro Taira. But I think Taira is a little bit above him. I would kind of be interested in that rematch, but maybe later. I think right now, work the way up. Albazi and Horiguchi are about to have a fight. I think definitely trying to get in there and get a win over those guys would be your step to getting back into that title run because he's down low at number 10. I mean, there's Tim Elliott above him, there's Asu Almabayev up there, and I think he lost to him actually. Yeah. Um, he has a way to go. Yeah, he lost to Tatsuro Taira and Asu Almabayev, but I think I think the Horiguchi fight honestly would be my one that I would love to watch Alex Perez in. I actually didn't do this because I'm bad at my job. Charles Johnson, man, well, I hope he gets some time to rest his head. What? Who would Charles Johnson fight? I don't even know. I don't even know. Has he fought? Has he fought Tim Elliott? Make it Tim Elliott. I don't know if he's fought him. I'm not gonna go look. I don't. We're almost at an hour, so I'm not gonna go further. With that, I think, yeah, Tim Elliott, Charles Johnson. Why not? Good fight. I feel bad because I don't mean to phone it in, but it is what it is. Really quick, going into the early prelims. Obviously, we lost the Michael Johnson Alexander Hernandez fight. Hopefully, they rebook that. I think that's a great fight. Josh Hokick, I think this fight sucked. Okay, he can wrestle. We kind of knew that. Performance of the night, please. I tweeted about it. I get it. Perez, he missed weight, but come on, just come on. You chased down and wrestled, and you barely I don't think Josh Hokick finished Denzel Freeman. I think Freeman gassed, and the ref stopped it. You know, you don't finish guys from a middle finger across the cage. The you're an athletic heavyweight and you gas down another heavyweight in the first round. Congratulations. Um, and then he had the super lame wrestling call out with the side of transphobia. So whatever. Get up there and get knocked out. That's what I want for Josh Hokick. Call me a hater. I don't care. The performance of fight bonus I did think was fine was Ty Miller. Man, he was landing heat-seeking missiles on Adam Fugit. I am so excited to watch that guy fight. No next fight for him. Whoever, just he's new to the UFC. I like it. But that's the card. Um, you know. All right, cool. Under an hour. Obviously, it's a little rough kind of doing it by myself, but I hope it wasn't too hard for y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Just some other stuff really quick. I absolutely want to, in the future, do a segment basically going through the storylines going in and my takeaways from the fight card. I may do those on my own. I would do it today, but I just did the whole fight breakdown by myself, and I'm thinking everyone's going to get a little tired of just listening to me ramble on my own, and that is it's something that needs a conversation. And I've already kind of mixed in my takeaways, what they would have been, and I even gave more throughout the card. But as for storylines going in, One of my big ones was like how the UFC Paramount, and then there were those issues with it, like we mentioned. But like overall grade, I think this was a B. It had some hiccups, had some fallouts, it had some concerns. I think the fact that it started an hour early, yet pretty much ended at the same time. Though to be fair, I don't sit there and watch all the press. It was over at 12:30 for me. That decision was right in 12:30. It's over. So all these people saying, "Oh," and then at one, I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, if you listen to them talk in the cage about nothing for 30 minutes, all you gotta do is listen to the first 10 seconds. Are they calling anyone out? Okay, I'll catch the clip on YouTube later. You know what I mean? I want call outs after fights. If they're not calling out, and yeah, Patty always delivers a beautiful message. I don't want to hate on that, but damn, and he lost, so he shouldn't be calling anyone out right now. But yeah, it's one of those things. I think it was a B plus. There's concerns, and frankly, the UFC did say they expect to shave about 45 minutes off the broadcast. They said they're trying new things, and I'm going to end it on this. Did we really need the Travis Barker drum solo? I don't think so. I think that took up like 15 minutes and I could have been in bed by 12:30 then. And that's really what matters. Thank you for watching. I was really just trying to drag this out to an hour, but I know I got some editing to do, so it's going to be under. Have a good one, and we'll be seeing you later.